The Black Sun, the Solar Eclipse, and Rahu Ketu, the Lunar Nodes, Part 2, you guys. Welcome back to Psychedelicization. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to continue off of where I left off of that last video, that shorter video that everyone was seeing. And no, we are not just going to show that popular video clip or the still image of it that everyone is talking about. We will be using actual authentic footage and critical thinking skills in this video to debunk the fact that people are saying that the moon is what eclipses the sun. This is just a popular clip because it very accurately depicts what we actually witness in real life. But on top of that, anything like this that you see on astrophotography pages has been 100% CGI rendered afterwards. When you see images looking like this with the faint dark silhouette of the moon and its craters, it has been digitally generated, photoshopped on top of the photo of the solar eclipse afterwards. You never see in videos showcasing what these photos are showing you, which is a moon with its craters visible. You never see that. The real ones look like this. And here is another example after editing CGI imagery of the moon on top. Here's another example that is slightly harder to see the craters of the moon, but if you look closely, you can tell the CGI arrangement of the craters was done. And all of the eclipse photos that I'm going to be using in this video, again, are all authentic, independent videos where you see nothing but blackness. But this one, in this video, we see a train going by in front of the eclipse and no moon is visible. You don't see the silhouette, and all you see is the node taking a bite out of the sun. It's definitely not the moon at all, and there is no silhouette outline of the moon visible once again. Even in this clip, at the end of the day, for these people, when the sunlight is almost diminished as it leaves their perspective going away from them, you still cannot see the silhouette outline of the moon. When you watch a total solar eclipse, you see something extraordinary. The visible sun appears to be gradually consumed by a perfectly circular shaped black orb. You have to look closely. Where is the rest of this supposed object before it reaches the sun in totality? And where does it go afterward? If what we are witnessing was simply a solid spherical moon physically traveling across the face of the sun, we would expect to see that entire object before and after the moment of overlap. But that's not what the eclipse appears to show. Instead, the blackness seems to manifest specifically at the point of intersection with the sun, creating the appearance of one sphere passing directly in front of another. So what if the phenomena is not occurring in the way that we've traditionally imagined it? In the geocentric model that I'm presenting, the eclipse is not simply a physical moon traveling across the face of a distant sun. The phenomena involves the interaction of the black sun, which is a multi-disked, multi-level Tesla coil that is the dielectric field, and the two lunar node points, Rahu and Ketu. Now, there are different interpretations of Rahu and Ketu. Some traditions and modern interpretations describe them as the actual shadow luminaries or the celestial bodies that are associated with the eclipses, while others understand them as the lunar node points themselves, the geometric intersection of the sun's apparent path and the moon's orbital path along the ecliptic. For the sake of this video, we will follow the framework that we have already established. Rahu and Ketu are the lunar nodal intersection points, not the shadow bodies themselves. The shadow phenomena is treated as a separate incorporated component of the eclipse mechanism connected to the projection of the black sun. Now, I cannot 100% definitively confirm this because this is hidden occult knowledge, you guys. However, to the best of my ability, to the best that I have discovered, and according to occult research documents, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds have kept hidden this for so many years that the black sun is made up of multiple black disks. It's a metaphysical, multi-leveled Tesla coil of enormous magnitude and mysterious mechanics. So in Vedic cosmology, these 2 points are known as Rahu, the north ascending lunar node, and Ketu, the south or descending lunar node. And there exists the shadow luminaries that are projected into the sky from the black sun that are invisible to the naked eye. And then you have the lunar node points themselves, in which they are the geometric intersection points, which are the 2 locations where the moon's orbital path intersects the sun's apparent path through the zodiac analemma. Think of them as 2 celestial fulcrum points. Now we're going to read in the text Zetetic Astronomy, written by Robotham. Many people have seen and heard of this and read it. He talks about this on page 121 to 122, and it reads, "We have seen that during a lunar eclipse, the moon's self-luminous surface is covered by a semi-transparent something, that this something is a definite mass because it has a distinct and circular outline as seen during its first and last contact with the moon. As a solar eclipse occurs from the moon passing before the sun, so from the evidence above collected, it is evident that a lunar eclipse arises from a similar cause, a body semi-transparent and well-defined passing before the moon, or between the moon's surface and the observer on the surface of the earth. That many such bodies exist in the firmament is almost a matter of certainty, and that one such as that which eclipses the moon exists at no greater distance above the earth's surface is a matter admitted by many of the leading astronomers of the day. In the report of the Council of the Royal Astronomical Society, June 1850, it is said, 'We may well doubt whether that body which we call the moon is the only satellite of the earth.' In the report of the Academy of Sciences, October 12th in 1846, and again August 1847, the director of one of the French observatories gives a number of observations and calculations which have led him to conclude that there is at least one non-luminous body of considerable magnitude which is attached to the Earth as a satellite. Sir John Herschel admits that invisible moons exist in the firmament. Sir John Lubbock is one of the same opinion and gives rules and formula for calculating their distances, periods, etc. At the meeting of the British Association for Advancement of Sciences in 1850, the president stated that the opinion was gaining ground that many of the fixed stars were accompanied by companions emitting no light. And he's referring to these stars as the planets, because as we've already established in other videos, the wandering stars are the planets. Page 122. The changeable stars which disappear for a time or are eclipsed have been supposed to have very large opaque bodies revolving about or near them, so as to obscure them when they come in conjunction with us. Bessel, the greatest astronomer of our time, in a letter to myself, July 1844, said, "I do indeed continue in the belief that Procyon and Sirius are both true double stars, each consisting of one visible and one invisible star. The belief in the existence of non-luminous stars was prevalent in Grecian antiquity, ancient Greek, and especially in the early times of Christianity. It was assumed that among the fiery stars, which are nourished by vapors, there move other earthly bodies which remain invisible to us. Stars that are invisible and consequently have no name move in space together with those that are visible. We have now seen that the existence of dark bodies revolving about the luminous objects in the firmament has been admitted by practical observers from the earliest ages, and that in our own day, such a mass of evidence has accumulated on the subject that astronomers are compelled to admit that not only dark bodies, which occasionally obscure the luminous stars when in conjunction, but that the cosmical bodies of large size exist, and that one at least is attached as a satellite to this Earth. It is this dark or non-luminous satellite which, when in conjunction or in a line with the moon and an observer on Earth, is the immediate cause of a lunar eclipse. Now also, keep in mind that the entire celestial sky is always rotating, that the north and south lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, are continuously progressing through the zodiac framework, marking the 2 points where the lunar path intersects the ecliptic of the sun. So for August 12, 2026 eclipse, the relevant point in this model was Ketu, the south lunar node, marking the eclipse with the sun. The eclipse has nothing to do with the moon, and therefore requires a precise geometric relationship where the sun, the lunar node, and the underlying black sun projection must reach this appropriate alignment point within the zodiac, specifically along the ecliptic pathway. It is at this nodal intersection point where these celestial variables converge that the conditions for the eclipse become established. And as I've mentioned before, we distinguish between the shadow bodies and the lunar node points of intersection. Because again, for this video, they are not the same thing. Even though not everyone agrees with that, everyone has their own take on it. But again, this is occult knowledge that is heavily suppressed. Within this model, the shadow body or the shadow luminary is the projected dark orb that is responsible for producing the visible interruption of the sun. It is the phenomena that appears to cross or obscure the solar projection during the eclipses. The lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, are fundamentally different. They are not shadow bodies, planets, or physical objects. Once again, they are the geometric intersection points that always rotate in retrograde backwards motion along the ecliptic. The 2 locations where the moon's orbital pathway intersects the ecliptic of the sun, or it intersects the sun's apparent pathway through the zodiac. Think of it this way, to simply think about it, is that the shadow body is the participant and the lunar node is the intersection point, very simply. Rahu and Ketu establish the celestial coordinates where an eclipse can occur on those points, while the shadow body represents the obscuring phenomena that manifests when the necessary celestial variables come into an alignment, and they are being projected by the black sun. And this distinction is that a node is a location in celestial geometry, not the actual object that is occupying that location. Rahu and Ketu therefore function as the 2 celestial fulcrum points, while the shadow body is the phenomena associated with the eclipse itself, the black sun. So when we say that an eclipse occurs at Ketu, we are not saying that Ketu itself is the dark object crossing the sun. Ketu identifies the nodal position at which the relevant geometry is established, which is why sometimes at different eclipse times, different years, the sun, moon, and Rahu are conjuncting. And then sometimes the sun and moon are in conjunction with Ketu at sometimes. In the case of August 12, 2026 solar eclipse, the conjunction was in a relationship with the south node, Ketu. And that can be confirmed by looking at this screenshot I have from astrotheme.com. It's very useful if you guys want to use it to track celestial bodies. And I have it calculated on Wednesday, which was the day of the eclipse. And as you can see, the south node is diametrically opposed to the north node, but the south node is what is in conjunction with the sun and moon, causing the eclipse. Therefore, it faces it as the north node is displayed right in between Aquarius and Pisces, and right across from it would be the constellation Leo, which is where the sun and the moon were conjunct at, where the solar eclipse took place right next to the south node on August 12, 2026. Every eclipse will always show similar displays like this. The conjunction is always next to one of the nodal points on the ecliptic. And in the model that we're developing, the black sun projects all the luminaries, including the shadow bodies, which interacts with this nodal geometric point that is intersecting on the solar and lunar analemmatic ecliptic point. And when the appropriate variables converge along the ecliptic, the shadow phenomena that is circulating under the Earth, very briefly, that what we call an eclipse, becomes visible and apparent from our terrestrial perspective on the plane of Earth. Now consider something that is often overlooked. Everyone on Earth does not observe an eclipse from the same perspective. An eclipse is observed from a specific location on the terrestrial surface that is determined by very precise, specific variables that are constantly shifting. This means that observers separated by hundreds or even thousands of miles can experience the same eclipse at different times of the day, different altitudes in the sky, different azimuths, different latitudes, and from different angles, eclipsing at different orientations relative to the celestial geometry. So when you compare eclipse recordings from different locations, the apparent movement of the blackened portion across the sun can look dramatically different. Some see it up in the sky, some see it while the sun rises and approaches them, while others see it when the sun is setting and going away from their perspective at the horizon. These different parameters will affect the direction of the node in which direction it will slide across the sun at. For one observer, the movement may appear primarily downward. For another, it may appear upward. And another observer may see it moving almost horizontally. And another person might see a noticeably diagonal path. But this doesn't necessarily mean that different objects are moving in different directions. It means that the same celestial event is being viewed from different positions and different perspectives, but it's all happening at the same time. This is a fundamental concept of perspective, which also strongly falsifies the explanation that the moon is the cause of the eclipse, because the moon only moves horizontally from east to west. The moon does not vertically move in the opposite direction at all. Our perspective plays a humongous role in viewing the eclipses big time. If you pay attention to the moon, these globe models make no sense and absolutely falsifies that the moon is the reason for the obstruction across the sun. Just look at these models, at what they say in some of the graphic demonstrations, and compare it to the expected trajectory of what we see during the eclipses, like on August 12th, 2026. It's all over the place. Even in these science astrophysics channels, they tell you how the eclipse will unfold with the moon rotating around the Earth, but it just does not make any sense. It does not match up to what we are seeing. Now, what they tell you about the perfect syzygy of the global model of the eclipse is that what makes a total eclipse possible is that the sun is 400 times the diameter of the moon, but it's 400 times further away, and that this somehow magically creates a perfect match in the sky. The specific orientation of the sun and moon relative to one another, combined with their changing positions along the ecliptic and the Earth's position at a particular point in the calendar year, somehow creates a very specific set of geometric variables. Add to that the observer's location on Earth, and you have an entirely different perspective of how these celestial bodies should appear to move across the sky. From our position on Earth, celestial bodies appear to travel along an arc from rising to setting, It's called the arc of horizon. But that arc changes depending on your latitude, season, time of day, viewing location, etc. When an eclipse occurs within this changing geometry, the apparent trajectory of the darkened portion across the sun can therefore appear to take unusual or unexpected directions and angles. We're not simply observing a body moving across a flat sky. We're observing the projection of three-dimensional celestial geometry onto our local horizon. And when you compare this with the predicted paths of future eclipses, again, the variables in their tracks, timing, altitude, and apparent direction raises even more questions about how we interpret the moon's supposed path across the sun. So within this model that I'm presenting, the black sun is positioned beneath the geocentric plane and is associated with the underlying cosmic dielectric toroidal field. The black sun consists of multiple black disks and multiple metaphysical levels as a multi-leveled Tesla coil that continuously rotates and projects electromagnetic energy through this field. And as that energetic projection that produces the luminaries and the shadow luminaries cycles, it interacts with the geometry of the lunar node points, which are the two particular conjunction points within the zodiac that can produce the eclipse phenomena that we observe from Earth. And since the sun in this model is understood as a metaphysical plasma projection generated from a higher frequency of light, it is continuously producing the visible solar image through conical refraction. And therefore, the eclipse occurs when the celestial geometry reaches a very precise nodal conjunction. And at that moment, the black sun interacts with either Rahu or the Ketu node, thereby disrupting or interfering or coming in between the underlying projection that produces the visible sun and creating the temporary appearance of a dark orb crossing or consuming the solar disk. And in this case of August 12, 2026, it was the south lunar node, Ketu, once again. The lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, act as the two primary intersection points. When the sun, moon, and one of these nodal points reaches the appropriate relationship, the conditions for an eclipse are established. And because the observer is standing on a stationary Earth at a particular latitude and longitude with the rotating sky dome above them that is always adjusting and constantly shifting on a daily basis, the resulting projection is not going to look identical from every location. Everyone sees a different unfolding of it. And that's why comparing multiple recordings can be so fascinating. You are not necessarily watching the eclipse itself change direction. You're watching the eclipse from different perspectives of the same celestial geometry. And so instead of asking only what physical object is passing in front of the sun, we can ask a different question. What geometric and energetic relationship produces the appearance of the black orb that we see? In this model, the answer involves the black sun, the dielectric field, the lunar nodes, and the perspective of the observer on Earth. Rahu and Ketu become the two celestial fulcrum points around which the eclipse cycle can be understood. And the different paths captured by observers around the world become another piece of the puzzle, because the apparent direction, altitude, and timing of the eclipse are all dependent on where you are standing when you observe it. The eclipse is not simply something that is just happening up there in the sky, even though technically it is, but we're seeing that projection play out in the sky above that originates from below. It is a phenomena being experienced through a specific Earth-centered perspective, as above, so below, as within, so without. And once you begin looking at the eclipse through geometry, perspective, and the lunar node points, you start to see the entire phenomena very differently. There are some fascinating and admittedly darker theories surrounding solar eclipses. One of them proposes that an eclipse is not simply a celestial, astronomical, astrological event, but a temporary portal or opening in the celestial veil through which unseen or nefarious entities could potentially enter our realm. Now, whether you interpret that literally, spiritually, or symbolically, or you don't even buy into that at all, regardless, there's still an important question. Why have eclipses been surrounded by so much fear throughout human history? And why have so many ancient cultures treated these moments in the heavens as something extraordinary? Perhaps part of the answer is that an eclipse represents something much deeper than darkness crossing the sun. It represents a moment when the familiar order of the heavens appears to be interrupted. Within the geocentric model that we've been exploring, the eclipse involves the interaction of the black sun, the dielectric field, and the lunar node points, Rahu and Ketu. And the black sun represents the hidden energetic source beneath the visible solar projection. Rahu and Ketu represent the two nodal fulcrum points where the lunar path intersects the sun's apparent celestial path. And the shadow luminaries are responsible for the actual event taking place that we call the phenomena of the eclipse. And when these relationships reach the appropriate conjunction, the visible solar projection can become temporarily obscured. And this is where the ancient symbolism of the veil becomes extremely interesting. The sun disappears, daylight changes, the sky darkens, the ordinary appearance of the heavens becomes disrupted. And for a brief period, what we normally perceive as reality appears to open into something unfamiliar. That is precisely why an eclipse can be interpreted as a threshold event. Some traditions and modern theories take this idea much further. They propose that the darkness of an eclipse represents an opening through which negative, parasitic, or otherwise unseen entities can enter the physical realm. Others interpret it as a temporary weakening of the boundary that's separating different layers of reality. Now, I'm not presenting that interpretations as something that has been scientifically established as fact, but I think the symbolism is worth considering because whether the portal is literal or metaphorical, the concept points toward the same fundamental idea. An eclipse represents a temporary crossing between the worlds, between what is visible and what is normally hidden. And that brings us to something even more interesting, the all-seeing eye. Think about the reoccurring symbolism of the eye. The eye has represented divine vision, hidden knowledge, surveillance, and control throughout different cultures and traditions. And in this model, we basically live inside of the eye of God, within his dream world. The famous all-seeing eye can therefore be interpreted in two completely opposite ways. It can represent an external power watching humanity, or it can represent humanity awakening to its own ability to see. And this distinction matters because control does not always require controlling the world itself. Sometimes control begins by controlling attention. If you can determine what people fear, what people desire, what they believe, or where they place their attention at, you can influence the reality that they experience ultimately. So this brings us back to the eclipse. Remember what we established earlier. People across different locations can experience the same eclipse from dramatically different perspectives, different latitudes, elevations, time of day, different apparent directions of movement. One observer may see the eclipse progressing upward, another may see it moving downward, another person may see a diagonal path, etc. The celestial event is the same, the perspective is what is different. And that becomes a powerful metaphor for reality itself and what we're talking about. Perhaps the real danger is not simply something entering through a portal even though it probably is. But on top of that, perhaps the greater danger is allowing someone else to define for you what you're actually witnessing once the veil opens, and it may be why the satanic globe lie was invented years ago by the occult, claiming that the moon is what covers the sun, because it was an attempt to steer humanity away at this important event in what is actually taking place. So when I say see through the veil, I'm not simply talking about looking directly at the eclipse. I'm talking about developing the ability to question the framework through which you interpret reality. Don't let fear become your lens. Don't let institutions, media, entertainment, or anyone else completely determine what you are allowed to perceive. Just take it with a grain of salt. Question the narrative. Examine the symbolism. Study the geometry. Observe the heavens. And most importantly, learn to distinguish between what you actually observe and the interpretation that someone gives you. Within this model, the eclipse becomes a meeting point between the visible and the invisible hidden realms. The black sun beneath the geocentric plane, the dielectric field surrounding the celestial system, and the nodal geometry of Rahu and Ketu. Whether you see the eclipse as a portal, a celestial mechanism, a symbolic threshold, or all three together, it forces us to confront the same question. What exists beyond what we have been taught to see? Because invisible worlds exist. Maybe the darkness is something nefarious. Maybe it simply is the hidden side of a celestial mechanism. Or perhaps the greatest revelation is that the veil was never only in the sky. It was in our perception. And once you begin questioning what you've been told to see, you may discover that the eclipse is not merely just blocking the light. It may be revealing how much of reality we've never been taught to see. Stay vigilant, Cosmic Familia, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.